Grounded was developed by Obsidian Entertainment and released sometime around 2020. No, this is not really Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, although there are potentially 4 teenagers who have been miniaturized and are in a backyard full of dangers. The storyline here is actually quite a bit darker, even though everything seems fine and relatively wholesome to start with. There are quite a bit of survival and crafting elements present here, as well as base building. I'll show some parts of all of these, but I'll mostly be focused upon the story and exploration. I had played this and beaten it before, but that was a while ago, and it has had a whole lot of updates since those days. As usual, there will be a little bit of fumbling about, as well as knowing where some things are. Unlike the first time too, I won't be as cautious about delving out into areas that I was afraid of before. This is a long game, and there's a lot to explore and do. I doubt I'll get to everything outside of the main story, but I will try to experience most of it in this journey.
On Yoked Girth. Now a word from our sponsor. Kids, are you ready for a new wild and wacky puncho fruit flavor? Introducing Apricot. It's a punch to the gut. So stop by, fill up, and make sure you get your Billy Hog hot dog before you jet away.
Good morning, Brook Hollow. Today is October 20, 1990. This is your news. We have a special breaking report. The police department has released information that more local teenagers have gone missing. They were last seen earlier this week, and the only connection between the teenagers is that they are all students at Brook Hollow High School. This could be linked to the disturbing trend of other possible abductions and missing teenagers from our otherwise quiet town. If anyone has seen the teenagers or has any other information, please contact the police department. The mayor of Brook Hollow has put a curfew into effect for anyone under 18 starting tonight. Now to other news. In the business world, prominent practical technology signs a few deals with.
My initial wandering around, refamiliarizing myself with the game and everything in it, I'm plotting around on the map, seeing where everything in the start area is, as well as crushing a few bugs with a rock I managed to pick up. My main base was at the research center near the kid case the first time I played, but this time I'm setting up near the juice box. Having juice in the morning will be very beneficial this early, and later when I get a water container. I can also build the water catcher container thing right underneath the straw to collect the juice automatically. I built the basic tools, and now I have a fire pit. I can begin roasting food. You have food and water requirements in this game, and they will affect your stamina if they get too low. I've killed some aphids and weevils. Their meats can be cooked, roasted on the fire for food. I also start gathering grass planks so I can begin to build structures, but then I remember I don't actually have those blueprints yet. Structure building will come a bit later. For now, we're just kind of building out here in the ground. Also, stupidly enough, I didn't really use trail markers my first time around, so I just memorized where everything was. This time, however, I'm going to be slightly less stupid, and I'm going to mark where everything is. That way I can just see at a glance where I need to go. Here's the research station near the tenderfoot area. I begin my first researching of items I've been gathering just in and around the newer player area of the yard. This is how a player will unlock new blueprints for items and various other things. You also get raw science from this research, but currently we have no means of using that. We'll have to unlock that later. Additionally, each station only has 3 researches possible before a recharge is needed. It takes about 10 minutes of real time to recharge fully for each station. I'll be coming back here pretty often, especially early on, as I'm not leaving the safety of the starting area, at least for a short while. I've got this lean-to in the base. This is where you can sleep to pass the night away, but it also acts as a spawn point, and you can plop these down anywhere to set yourself up as a different respawn point. Later, we'll build a dwelling with a house, and there will be a bed in it, which will also give me buffs for living quote-unquote more civilized. For the moment, however, a lean-to and sleeping on the ground is the best I've got. I get some plank storage set up and begin clearing the surrounding area, mostly for fiber, but I know eventually I'm going to be building here. I think I'll build on the big rock that is next to the juice box. It'll be a bit before I have walls and floors though. Torches can light up a small surrounding area. They don't last very long, but later we'll get a torch plus, which uses raw science to last longer. You can also get a stalk to light up the underwater areas once we get to those, or if you prefer a green light instead. I didn't venture out at night in my first playthrough very much, at least until I was geared up, but I'll be going out there a lot more this time. This time I'm more aware of what creatures are actually out there. I found this underground cavern by breaking the rocks and then realized I wasn't recording. The slime mold stalks are here, which can be used for torches for underwater. There's also marble, but we lack the hammer for it. The scabby is just a cosmetic item to change the colors of your UI. There are a lot of mites in this area, and eventually I'll mark it and be back, as I'll need a lot of mite fuzz for the red ant armor. I'll also eventually need them for smoothies. Time to move towards the oak tree in the pond to gather acorns. There are a lot of valuables to be gained by these resources, not the least of which is acorn armor. They are all over the big tree near the pond, which is also a wolf spider lair, but fortunately they don't come out during the day, usually. There's also a lot of sap to be acquired around here, and I'll be coming back here to fulfill my acorn and sap needs.
Yes, I can go inside this can.
The pond on this side has a can and a juice box, both refill every day. I'll want an encampment here anyway to venture into the pond in the future, so I set up some basics. I may or may not build more than that, but a lean-to, chests, and cooking is good enough for now. There are a lot of aphids that come along the rocks, so there will be plenty of food to cook. I've acquired a shovel. This will let me dig up grubs. The grubs will provide a hide that will be an intermediate armor set before I eventually get enough to build acorn armor. This will require me venturing into the pond at least a little bit. I'll also need a shovel for clay, but that's a bit later. Time to activate the machine. I was delaying progressing the main story to collect resources for a bit and try to unlock some of the base building stuff. I want more than just a lean-to, workshop, and fire pit, after all. Need some creature comforts to pretend like we aren't some tiny barbarian out here in the yard. So I have to chop down some grass to get all 3 beams to activate. Once that is done and I hit the activate, there's a little sequence of the beams firing. This causes an overload at the oak tree lab. This will also give us access to it and the story stuff and resources inside. I make an abortive attempt to get into the newly opened oak lab. There are spiders here. I attempt to take on the junior variety, attempting to use height to my advantage, but that doesn't really work out too well. I also lack bandages, which are definitely something I must remedy in the future. When a big one finds me, however, I must make a run for it. Orb weavers are terrors right now, but eventually there will come a time when they are trivial. So apparently there's a stink bug down here on this side of the wooden fence area. I don't remember there being one down here, as I think I cleared this whole area out for my pond base last time. I definitely don't have what it takes to take one of these down, so for now I guess this area is inaccessible to me. Here we are back at the Oak Lab entrance. I intend to just run past the spiders, except she's not here now, so I just walk inside. There's a research terminal here and an infinite water supply as well as a tape. Burgle is also in the back once I wake him up. He'll provide quests and story for this portion of the game. The tapes will provide some story elements, however, like most open world games with logs, you may or may not acquire them in the correct order. There's a terminal in the back near the infinite water supply that has cameras for the Haze and Black Amps labs. This is nice little foreshadowing in places we'll need to go to eventually. We're nowhere near equipped for either place quite yet though.
Thanks for the helping hand. I am Burgle, acting science manager for this project. I am also a robot. I am sure this all must be very disorienting for you, but hopefully I can explain. I suspect you were miniaturized by Dr. Tully's spacer device. Why are you here in the yard? I do not know. In fact, I cannot seem to recall much of anything. A recent power surge has caused a massive raw science containment explosion. This lab, as you can see, is a disaster. And what's worse, the explosion has disrupted my computing power. My memory banks are corrupted. Sorry to pile on the bad news, my new friend. How can I be of service? It seems you and I are both a little discombobulated. Given my best calculations, your biomass has been subject to covalent spacing reduction via interatomic energy extraction. In other words, you have been shrunk. It is likely this was achieved using Dr. Wendell Tully's spacer platform, patent pending. Shrinking can be a traumatic experience for tiny human brains, and memory loss is a known side effect. Hopefully your memory will return in time. Dr. Tully is a brilliant scientist and inventor. He is also my creator. My initial protocol was to serve as the short order cook of the future. However, I have been recently promoted to acting science manager to assist with his experiments. No doubt my previous work experience has been invaluable to Dr. Tully. Although, now that I am processing it, I have not seen him for several weeks. And now I cannot recall where he went. It must be my corrupted memory banks.
There's a lot of initial raw science in the base, and like most of the labs, there's a lot of crafted resources. The most important area right now is getting scanner access to open up the ASL or Advanced System Library. This will open up a quest section and a science shop, which will grant additional blueprints and other stuff that we can purchase with raw science. The final cartridge is for molars, but we'll come back to that later when we have a hammer and can actually interact with that system. Additionally, there are some daily quests for Burgle in the quest cartridge, but we don't have the requirements for those yet either. The first thing I want though is multi-story bases. This will allow me to actually begin building rooms instead of just spreading out on the ground like I have been. In the future I'll be hunting creatures extensively, and when you kill too many of them they will send reinforcements after you to assault your base. Having everything on the ground and not protected by walls or, floors will get stuff destroyed pretty quickly. There are a couple other things to activate in the base too, but we'll need various chips found out in the world to activate them. There's some additional stuff outside in the broken area of the base to explore and acquire some more raw science. There's also a molar down here. I'll find my first upgrade materials down here as well, but I'll need a level 2 hammer to mostly interact with the molars. Yeah, here's what you can do with the water container. If you put it directly under the straw of a juice container, it will catch the leakage automatically, at least until it fills up. This gives you a backup supply of juice when you need it before you get the water vapor collector. There are a lot of mites up on this hill near the haze. I even climb up on a rock encountering an infected mite, which has the fungal infection, which is why the haze is here. I kill this and get the stuff for research, somehow avoiding the larger and more aggressive insect variants. Infected creatures are always hostile regardless of whether their normal variants are or not. We'll be back here later. The haze will require a gas mask for traversal, however. There's also a lab over here that we will get to eventually. Additionally, you can also turn off the haze. However, that will cause the infection to spread beyond it, which is generally not something you want to do. I found the rotten larva blade. There's some hidden items out in the world for you to discover. They usually aren't just sitting out in the open and often require exploration, parkour, or even building a platform up to them. This one we kind of get for free, and likely before I reasonably fight larva to get one and build it up my own. I don't think I've talked about mutations. These are buffs you get from doing stuff in the yard, and there are a few you can also just outright purchase from the shop. I'll get the health one at the ASL terminal in a bit. At the start, you can only have 2 active at once, but that will be upgradable later via molars. You'll have mutations for specific weapons, for blocking, for gathering, for health, etc. For now, we don't have much to work with, but later I'll probably be switching between gathering ones and combat ones, depending on what I'm doing. The Hedge Lab has one of the super tapes, but it is very high up and I won't be getting to it right away. There are also berries here which will drop a product that can be dried to create berry leather, which is a mid-tier resource that I'll need a lot of. But right now I don't have the drying rack, so collecting them is more for research currently. Also, it's important to place a flag here so I can return to the tree branches. Placing a lean-to and a roasting spit is a kind of way station base. Not actually going to build up anything here more permanent than that though. Although I will eventually put a water vapor collector here.
The Kinder Science lab modules have not held up as well as anticipated. I thought hiding these lab units in the hedge would provide a bit of protection from my rampaging children. But it appears not even the sanctuary of these leaves can protect my work from an errant flingman disc. The subsequent breaches in the lab structures have invited all manner of arachnid invaders to wander in. My plan is to recalibrate the tasty bots for defensive action. A stopgap solution, to be sure, but I've no time for repairs, not when I'm so close to unlocking the mysteries of raw science.
This is the fountain. We'll actually go up there eventually. I'm just here because I have core memories that there might be some accessible berries around and I want a few more. I find this one in the water and then realize I can't chop it in the water without an underwater weapon, which is kind of funny. You need a dagger for that, and I have one, but I don't remember that I can use it for that at this time. This locked door will actually open up once we gain access to the hedge lab and will allow us to travel up to the upper portion of the berries. This here is some of the wreckage of the hedge lab. I go inside to collect the raw science and then get surrounded by orb weavers. Also, the spider eggs will spawn spiderlings, but I think that they have the ability to drop a wide variety of items. You can get stuff out of them from creatures you don't yet have the ability to farm randomly. The robots also get raw science, and there will be more than a few of them up in the hedge lab. Well, I guess I can fight larvae. Good time to learn the perfect block, which I'm not great at, but it can allow you to fight things that are much higher than you might otherwise be able to. The poison blade certainly helps me out in these fights, though.
I've thought about this in circles for days now, and I've come to a decision. It's time to restart spacer development. I may not believe in it, but I know its potential. Though I must figure out how to return shrunk objects to their original size. The first step will be to address the particle transcription errors. It seems almost certain that the irregularities are responsible for the failure during the demonstration. Burgle, please bring up all the lab data about the unknown particles.
Happy to be of service. Notes will be prepared and delivered to your table in 4 hours or less.
4 hours? What are the chances for less?
Delivery estimate will be prepared in 2 hours or less.
An auspicious beginning.
Mosquitoes are not to be trifled with, especially at the stage of the game I am in. If you can perfect block, they aren't so bad, but then that's true of almost anything. They can sting you real good though if you aren't careful. I dropped this one like a pro, but probably I just got lucky with the blocks. Behind me there's the entrance to the New Game Plus lab, but we're a long ways away from that. I'm having a desperate battle with a bombardier beetle, and I clearly don't really understand its moves yet. The poison larva dagger is doing some heavy lifting here. Poison is really nice, especially early on for assisting in DPS. I am slow to learn the moves, but I eventually begin to understand the steps required. There's a ladybug battle with the ants that I stick around in an attempt to profit from the death of the ladybug. The ants that die I loot and then help finish off the ladybug for some easy loot as well. I'm otherwise not really equipped to kill one by myself, so this is a fortuitous event, so to speak. The koi pond. That koi might as well be a leviathan if it gets anywhere near you. He's the big threat here, but he has a relatively predictable pattern. You just have to keep an eye on where he is while exploring the pond. This is especially true before you get some of the breathing upgrades and the flippers, since you can't really move fast and you don't have a lot of air. I'm mostly here for the lily pad wax, but I try to gather everything I can. This includes meats from various creatures. Everything is researchable for the most part. I also need algae for crafting, and there's plenty of that in easy reach of the surface. This eelgrass, however, is pretty deep for my 30 seconds of air. I try my best, though, to get a bit of it for upgrades. We'll be back for more in the future. At the research station, I set up a lean-to after research everything to pass the night through, and then research another set of 3 items. I decided to take on a ladybug here, fighting in and around my water container at the juice. Unfortunately, the ladybug ends up destroying the container in an attack, which disintegrates its entirety of its contents, for some reason. I do eventually bring her down, but I got to choose my battle positions a little bit better in the future. This is a little taste of what will happen in some of the future raids on my base when they just start destroying stuff. I can fight 1 orb weaver, but 2? No, that's a bridge too far. I'm not sure what it is about them, but they do seem to be drawn in towards combat. I sometimes have to pull enemies out really far to prevent another one from just wandering in. I don't quite have the weapons for this. I'm still using a spear, which is a tier 1 weapon. I do have a trinket that causes health regen on perfect block though, and that's probably what's keeping me in this fight, as well as the mosquito foil. The second one still manages to get in on it, but at the end, he breaks my shield and I have to parry with the weapon instead. Yeah, just wandering around in the middle of the night gathering clay. What could possibly go wrong? Apparently larvae are out at night, or I disturbed them or something. There's a whole army out here, and every time I kill one, another one seems to join the fray. I'm still out here using the spear because it's dark and I have to use a torch instead of the shield. There are entirely too many of these guys, but I guess I'll need their spikes for repairs in the future.
After the oak lab, the hedge lab was the next to be constructed. Originally, we used it to observe and survey all of the wildlife and resources of the yard from a safe vantage point. After our encounters with the arachnids of the hedge, Dr. Tully's curiosity led us to experiment on spider silk, an extremely durable and strong material. The goal of our experiments there was to find other practical uses for it.
I'm heading to the hedge lab. I think I'm well enough equipped to deal with what's there, perhaps even over-equipped by this point. I get bogged down breaking spider eggs on the frisbee looking for rare items that they can sometimes contain. Eventually though, I proceed towards the lab. There's also a spider boss here near the frisbee, but I'm not anywhere near ready enough to take her on. We will get to her though. I'm using a red ant club. As you'll see, I prefer maces and clubs. I don't quite have the stamina for it here, as you can see. At least it can deal with the spiderlings and the bots present in the main sections of the hedge lab. In order to complete this section and open the door, we must find 4 slips of paper with a password on it. These are giant and not difficult to find, but the base is expansive and disconnected and disjointed from the damage it suffered. This can make it seem more maze-like than it is otherwise. Some of the areas have so much webbing you have to clear it to get inside. This also means some doors are shut until I find a way around to the other side to open them up. There are also way too many spiderlings running about here. There's a milk molar out here, already broken open for us. There's also a password, but the hole in the floor causes me to fall, because I didn't look. Fortunately, it's not to my death, and I just have to climb back up. The supply warehouse here is loaded. Unfortunately, most of it I have to leave behind as I'm already full from cracking all of those spider eggs. This is a lot of the bases are chock full of resources that you usually don't have room for by the time you get there. Because of how disjointed and damaged the base is, I must take zip lines between sections and then traverse the branches. I do acquire another shred of paper with a password on it, however. Clearing the webs on the doors opens up this section to the main room. Curiously enough, there's a mega molar out here, but I don't have the insect hammer to crack it open yet. I guess I'm not as equipped as I thought I was. Although I don't realize it here, and never did in my previous playthrough, the door here has a mushroom ramp from the head floor. I don't actually need to climb through the hedges to get into the lab, even though that's exactly how I'll get there when I go back for the molars. At that point, I'll discover this little secret down here. Well, not a secret, you just have to look, but it was a secret to me. Entering the password here opens the doors and lets me acquire the super chip from the hedge lab. There's also a duper chip, which will allow me to duplicate items at a reduced cost of raw science. I think this is the first one, so it will actually activate the duper for me. Spiders assault my base when I get back there, such as it is. I guess I killed too many of them in the hedge. This is a consequence of killing too many in a short span of time. The creatures in question will attack your base in decent numbers. Some will attack you, while others will attack and destroy the infrastructure in your base. I have most of my stuff on the ground, but after this I would begin to moving everything indoors or higher up. This won't be the last raid by any measure. I just barely killed my first wolf spider with a mosquito foil to life drain. That's about the only thing that kept me alive throughout. The poison resist mutation is essentially required to survive the poison they put out. Otherwise, I'll simply die at this stage from the poison. One is enough for now, but we'll be back for more parts.
Huh. You made it back in one piece. How unexpected. You are more resourceful than I thought. Hand it over and we can see what data Dr. Tully backed up upon it. Processing. Processing. This is the hedge super chip. Forgive me, I forgot to mention the nasty spiders before I sent you up there. I hope they were not too much trouble. Haha. I am feeling much more like myself. Take it from me. There's nothing quite like a reverse lobotomy. Thank you. Of course. Dr. Tully has included emotional programming to make me more human-like. Feelings enhance my cooking and grilling features. Every burger flip has a great deal of love put into it. Now, what is it you were wanting to know? Oh yes, the location of the other super chips. There are 4 labs throughout the yard, each with a super chip. The Hedge Lab, the Pond Lab, the Haze Lab, and the Black Ant Lab. And you have already made it through the hedge, so now on to the others. I will mark the locations of the super chips in those labs. Please find them and return to me so we can figure out how to repair the spacer. Oh, before you leave, check out the new recipes in the ASL Terminal Science Shop. That could be helpful.
I think mosquitoes start showing up in the yard after you acquire your first super chip. They aren't particularly difficult unless they get their charge attack in, and then they can do quite a bit of damage. I fight these, but in the future I'll probably just run by them, as eventually I won't need their parts. I'm out here looking for bombardier beetles, and I know there are at least 2 over by the Etch-a-Sketch. Their parts are needed for repairs, at least until I get some future upgrades, and they are relatively easy for me now. The acid still hurts though when it is able to hit. This is one of those weird AI versus AI battles. You have a stink bug versus a bee. Only occasionally do you see insects waging war against each other. It's pretty awesome when it happens though. I assist the bee in taking down the stink bug, as this will be an easy kill, since there are a bunch of bees over here anyway. I might as well get some of their parts too. They can also do a lot of damage with their stinger attack, but a block will drop them to the ground momentarily. I'm not super proficient at fighting flying enemies and should have used the bow more, but I think I did okay here. Also got some pollen that they shake off. I think they shake it off anyway. It's always around where bees are. This exposed pipe has a key inside, but I don't have a tier 2 knife to cut through the roots, so there isn't really much I can do here. Later though, we'll need the Minotaur key for that chest.
Please don't move, and look straight ahead. I promise you won't feel a thing.
It's a go for molecular reduction. Spacer is primed.
Where you are going, all your worries will seem so small.
A nightmare? No, a vision. And I remember every bit of it. An ominous logo and a fancy spacer. A spacer that was pointed directly at me. This changes everything. Maybe Burgle will understand what's going on.
More stink bug combat. My gas mask drains out way quicker than I remember. Fighting 2 or 3 of these was enough to drain the filter entirely. Fortunately, the haze doesn't seem to drain it at this rate, but stink bugs are prohibitively damaging on the mask for some reason. I try to swim to the pond lab, but I don't quite have the air capacity to succeed. I get pretty close, but then drown. Fortunately, my backpack floats to the surface outside, so at least I haven't lost that. I go back down into that little chamber canyon area after I die and acquire my backpack. I need to farm bone. I also need to grab scales while I'm down there. There's one air hose that releases bubbles, and I use this to refill my air as I'm searching for the bones. The Leviathan, I mean Koi, spots me down here and attempts to attack, but fortunately I'm too deep down here for it to get to me. Another set of stink bugs over here at one side of the pond. Yet again, they completely eat my gas mask filter. Eventually I'll figure out the toxicology badge, but not today. Some of these milk molars are just out in the open, and others are insidiously hidden. This one is just in a little puddle behind a leaf that I passed when I went this way for the bees. Fighting an army of red ants inside of their own colony turns out to be a mistake. Who would have thought? For some reason I think I can fight them, but I quickly come to the realization that they apparently can spawn endlessly. When they break my mining light, there is only a frantic retreat to the water and an attempt to get away. I'll come back next time for ant armor so I can take their eggs for explosives. I got the insect hammer finally, and time to get those mints I keep running by. Unfortunately, I can't do anything with them right now. It will count for research though, and after a while, I will be able to make mint weapons with them. I can also eat them, but I haven't figured that part out yet.
The pond lab is, as the name suggests, located at the bottom of the Tully's Koi Pond. You will need to take a swim to reach it. As to the science conducted there, Dr. Tully has long had a fascination with Brussels sprouts. He thought that an underwater lab would be the perfect environment for the cultivation of new superfoods.
I got the bubble helmet finally. I probably could have done this part without it, but it's real nice to have that extra air pocket, especially for switching on the power of the pond lab. The biometrics hand scanner works underwater, fortunately. This grants us access to the drier section of this part of the lab, which has a tape and also the power grid. There's also some production and sleeping quarters. Once the power is back on, the doors will open and we can move deeper into the facility. The power switches are outside. One of them is visible when I swim in, but they aren't usable until interacting with the console. After that, switching on all 3 of them will open up the rest of the facility. One is in the second part of the base, which is visible through a window near the bottom of the cavern. Meanwhile, the other is behind some roots that is protected by bell spiders. Once these are activated, the pool door is operational and we can gain access to other sections of the lab. I need to delve into more of the flooded sections, but these are dark enough I need a lantern for it. Through a series of underwater sections of the destroyed lab and pond cave, I eventually find my way through. I snag the koi figurine by accident while getting turned around inside of a tunnel. There is also a section behind some clay, but I'll get that in a bit. It's just a scabby though.
Dr. Applebaum has pronounced me in perfect health. For a man 20 years my senior, I must face the facts. The gray hairs, the wrinkles, they are not figments of the imagination. I can draw only one reasonable conclusion. It is the elusive fractional errors of the shrinking process which are the cause. Trudy has asked that I discontinue my experiments, but what choice do I have? If I quit now, I will have nothing. What will I be other than a failed inventor and scientist with no discoveries to his name, unable even to teach the basics of physics to a gaggle of hormonal teenagers? No! If this means that I must sacrifice 20 years of my life, then so be it.
Activating this terminal opens up the biodome as well as releasing security bots that I must deal with. They aren't particularly dangerous compared to almost anything else in the yard that I have encountered thus far. Like most of the labs, there is an infinite water source somewhere within. In the pond lab, we also have the biodome, which has regrowing mussel sprouts that will mostly be used for smoothies, but you can also eat them too. You can plant them in the garden, but you only get 2 per harvest without compost. These at the biodome respawn, I think, every few days, and once you open up the biodome, there will be easy access to the lab via the hatches. The super chip is here as well, as an upgrade for the super duper, or just duper maybe. One down, 2 more to go. Wolf spiders are no joke, and these from inside the tree seem particularly nasty. After a few tries, I barely managed to feed both of them. There's some upgrade materials and sap present here, as well as a mortar, but it's locked behind a destructible wall. I'll need explosives for that.
Recipes. I'm afraid Dr. Tully did not program me for dream analysis, but I will do my best. Was it perhaps about electric beef? I have always wanted to have that dream. Why don't you describe your dream for me? Aha! That confirms it! There are 2 spacers, just as Dr. Tully surmised. One in the yard and one at Eminent. He had a hunch that they continued his work on the spacer after he stopped working for them. It all computes. I do not believe these are just dreams. These are surely your memories. But perhaps they only return to you as dreams. So, Eminent shrunk you, and now you are here. I am pretty sure you are not an Eminent secret agent. I was JKing. That was a test. You passed. So if you are not an Eminent agent, why would they be shrinking children? Surely I have no idea. Yet another puzzle for us to solve. On the plus side, your memories must be slowly returning. If you have another dream, please come again. How can I be of assistance? How can I help you today? I knew I could count on you. Please hold while I update my files. Here we go. Processing. Processing. Whew! Better than ever! My diagnostic module is now restored. Analysis shows the spacer suffered a catastrophic failure in the embiggening cell. If only. Sadly, I can only explain its function. The embiggening cell stores and regulates interatomic energy transfer during the spacing expansion phase of the spacer. Put simply, it controls the rate of growth of the subject and prevents overexpansion, which can be quite messy. Yes, if the subject's rate of growth is not precisely regulated, overexpansion will cause bioorganic subjects, such as yourself, to pop like a gremlin in a microwave. Scientifically speaking, of course. There is both good news and bad news. Which would you like to have first? All natural flavoring is not, strictly speaking, natural. Now you know. The good news is that I have a spare cell here. The bad news, it is empty. The cell must be filled with a special mixture, a cocktail, if you will. Another breakthrough invention by Dr. Tully. Hold please while I push the recipe for the embiggening cocktail to your scabby. Processing. Processing. Error. Missing directory. The directory you attempted to copy does not exist. Boo-doo-doo. Boo-doo-doo. Cheese and fries. It appears the formula for the embiggening cocktail is not in my memory. It must be on one of the remaining super chips. We will need that recipe in order to fill the embiggening cell and send you home. I am sorry. It seems like the forces of nature are trying to keep you in this yard, but I believe you are here for a reason. Hold on to the empty cell for me, and when you feel ready, retrieve another super chip to see if we can piece this puzzle together.
I'm a little late here, having had the dream a while back, but here's Burkle's take on it. Not quite Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, as I previously mentioned, and much more ominous and dark. Perhaps, if you will, ominous and dark. Anyway, we'll have more dreams filling in the blanks as to what happened in due time. These super chips are creating a shopping list for us, such as it were, to gather items necessary to fix the embiggening machine. Each one gives us an item to collect and more objectives to accomplish. Since I now have the insect hammer, I go and collect the molar below, which I found much earlier when I initially got to the oak base. I'm setting up to have a zipline from the pond to the main base, which I've set up around the juice bottle from the beginning. Eventually I'll have a zipline to and from the upper yard down to the base, as well as to facilitate travel to and fro. In fact, I'll have several of those before the end, just because travel time it gets pretty egregious when you're moving back and forth from the upper yard to the lower yard. Nice view of the backyard from here, and also an indication of how little I've actually explored. I haven't even been to the sandbox, the garbage dump, or anything in the upper yard. The haze is also clearly visible, and that will be our next objective. Back in the hedge, there's another section of the lab that I didn't explore and actually just completely forgot about. This will turn on the yard scanners and allow me to use them to locate resources.
Scabby, surveyor connection established. Use survey stations to scan for analyzed materials. Visit additional stations to expand the survey network.
How'd Tully build all of this anyway? He has expansive bases all over the yard and not a single construction bot anywhere that I can see. I know he did some of it as a normal-sized person, but this still seems ridiculous. Back at the hedge lab, I've once more taken the very long route to get back to it instead of, you know, the ground entrance I still don't know about. We're here for molars, which I saw before when I was here, but lacked the hammer necessary to break them open. Oh, what's this? I finally discovered the ground entrance and understand what it is. I didn't even know this was here my first playthrough, or up until this point. Better late than never, I guess, right? So, about molars, I haven't really talked about them. I've been gathering them, though I haven't recorded all of it because that would just be too much. This is already going to be probably too big anyway. Molars are upgrades to your character. Milk molars increase your stats directly, such as health and stamina. I've gone active mutation full on because having more mutations is always better. We'll get to the other stuff later, especially since there's a mutation that gives health, so we can skip it for right now. Mega molars are stats that affect the whole team. This is a co-op game, by the way, if I didn't mention that before. Probably it's an absolute blast co-op too, but scheduling a crafting survival game probably requires an act of at least 1 or 2 sky gods, or at least something else powerful. These increase stack sizes, which are invaluable, as this works not only in your inventory but also your base inventory. You can drastically lower your storage needs by upgrading these. Also, if you're an archer, you can specialize to carry an absurd amount of arrows. I'm back in the ant colony, but this time I have the red ant armor. This disguises me to the ants. As long as I don't steal their eggs or attack anyone, they will completely ignore me. There's a weird ant traffic jam at the entrance, and I'm barely able to crowd surf over them. Not sure what caused this, but this is interesting. There are a bunch of upgrade materials down here, and I'm mostly here for that. I'll need to come back periodically for eggs too, as I need them to build bombs. This is the Red Ant Queen. You can fight her, but you can also befriend her. There are a variety of options here on how you deal with the Ant Queen, and these decisions can carry over into New Game Plus. Yeah, there are some things that don't get unlocked until New Game Plus 1, and even 2. It's wild. There's a lot of content here. Using fungus from the haze, you can turn eggs into explosives. This detail I forgot, but perhaps this is finally time and a good reason for me to go into the haze and collect that resource. I'm going to need a lot of bombs. This is one of the trenches that's in the haze. There are some very aggressive enemies down here that have a variety of explosive attacks. I get down pretty quickly, not remembering exactly how to fight them. Unperturbed by death, I return to deal with the infected larva. I need the fungus to build explosives to begin unlocking some otherwise closed off sections of the map. Fungus primarily comes from infected enemies, but there's also haze fungus that can drop it too, which is a plant. Although you don't want to confuse this with the explosive fungus that is also present here. There's a lot of fungus going on in the haze. Feathers often find their way down here, as the crow has a tendency to perch on the haze canister. We'll get a lot of crow feathers just going through here. This end of the trench has some raw science as a reward. Milk molar bottle here below the picnic table. Sometimes they really are just that easy to find and acquire. There's an even bigger one somewhere else I'll find much later. I find a bee that's stuck in the grass and eliminate him for parts. There's also an apple rind here. I know if I break it, the apple goes away, but if the ants continue to feed on it, is it an infinite apple bit source? And in actuality, I think the apple does respawn. I remembered incorrectly. Near the apple rind is a paper plate with an array of orb weavers in it. Every perfect block heals me because of the badge I have, and I'm getting better at that, so sometimes I can just heal myself from battle. No real reason to come over here. I was just hunting molars and doing general exploration. There's a burgle flag up on these rocks. I don't really remember what these are for or what they do other than get raw science. Maybe that's the whole point of them. I'm not actually sure. There's a milk molar here in the crack in the wall. With explosives, I can actually make a path to the upper yard through here. I have the fungus, but I'll need to gather more eggs, as the ones I got before hatched before I could get back. The shovel here is propped up by a cracked rock. A single explosive will remove it, causing the shovel to fall and create a bridge to the seating of the picnic table. Besides all the resources on the picnic table, this is also a great spot to harvest bees. Additionally, there's a zipline connector down to the sandbox, and you can build a zipline onto the picnic table for direct access to the sandbox. The alternative route is to go through the black ant base, but that would require understanding the black ant base to get through it. There's also gum present here, but we'll need a black ant shovel to harvest it. There's also splinters and rusty nails up here, but that will require tier 3 equipment to gather as well.
Gonna sting you real good.
I used the bow to lure the bees to me, clearing the singular bridge access across the picnic table's great chasm. Getting attacked on the bridge is unpleasant, as the bees sometimes have knockback attacks and they can just knock you off.
Not the bees!
These books here provide access to the lunchbox, and a hammer will lower the handle on the lunchbox to create a bridge to the table part. There's a juice and some food up here, as well as a science station. The Minotaur's and Myrmidon's castle also has a chest in it, but we'll need a key for that to unlock. There's the sandbox, and the garbage area behind it. Not sure why they would put the sandbox next to rotting garbage, but it's clear Tully probably wasn't the best parent. We actually passed the Minotaur key quite a while back, but I lacked the equipment to get through to acquire it. This is the chest that the key fits into. The Minotaur key was in the exposed pipe underwater and required a tier knife to cut through the root. For some reason, I wasn't recording when I acquired it, so instead here we are back at the picnic table to loot the chest. There's a Mega Molar and a Burgle chip. The chip will unlock some additional science items in the shop. These will be useful to a certain degree. Through the glasses, we see the fallen grill. There are resources that way, but I'll need some sizzle protection before I can gather the coal. That requires antlions in the sandbox, which in the day is also sizzling. We're back at the break in the wall, and I have a bomb this time. There's a roly-poly up here, and I try out my weapons on it, quickly realizing I don't have anywhere near the firepower needed for this fight. I'll be back for some roly-polies later, though. There's some ladybird larvae near the fallen grill. Their attacks cause sizzle, for which I have no protection, requiring perfect blocks to avoid getting cooked. It's actually very easy to get cooked here, if you don't have any sizzle protection. Up the hill a bit, I try to see if I can gather the coal quickly, and then remember just how hot it is up here. A mere moment near the heat and I'm taking damage. There's a mixer in the back. These provide raw science on completion. They also unlock a door if you complete all of them. I might try to tackle them, but I don't think they are necessary for main story completion. Time will dictate whether I do them at all or not. There is a Burgle flag down here in this pit, and then there was a cracked rock below that I had to blow open to gain access to the tunnel. There's a second cracked rock, and then we find an unusual science station underground with a bunch of upgrade materials scattered around. There's this weird flooded section with roots around a Mega Molar. I don't have my water gear, but I do have some mutations to help me stay down there longer to acquire the Mega Molar. What a strange location. It gets weirder too. Up down a different tunnel is yet another cracked rock. We're up to 3 explosives so far for this one hole in the ground. Also, there's a hole in the ground you could probably just skip over and never realize was there. Inside this room there's an army of larvae. Most are above ground and I have to fight them all simultaneously, which is a wild fight. But there are also larvae and grubs moving around underground, requiring a shovel to expose. Probably one of the many documents I picked up explains this place, but since I didn't read most of them, I'm left scratching my head. There are a lot of nice resources from this fight though. Back in the hedge, I finally repaired the one broken zipline. This takes us to branches that allow us to access to the fountain. Mosquitoes are here to annoy me. I hate them almost as much as I hate them in real life. There's a Burgle flag as well as some easily accessible berries for leather. I accidentally find a scabbing in the water too. There's also a Mega Molar in one corner. I thought there was more up here, or maybe I'm missing something, but it turns out it is mostly just berry leather to gather.
It's a go for molecular reduction. Spacer is prime. All tucked in with the outfits and backpacks they were snatched in.
Body mass readout is an acceptable range. Skinfold degradation is minimal.
Specimen vitals are stable and holding. Looks like we've done it.
Great job, everyone. Let's set up 3 more trials for replication.
Sorry to crash your party. The Defense Department has arrived early to discuss Project Orc. The director needs you to be present at the meeting.
Not sure what's worse, our director or a 3-hour meeting with the military.
More nightmare visions. I was the subject of a nefarious science experiment, but to what end? Orcs are minions of Lurk and Shriek. The quest becomes even more mysterious.
Larva assault the base. I've got some meager defenses up, and stuff outside gets wasted in the first wave. They go around the defenses in the second wave, attacking the interior of my base. Time to build up higher with better walls.
Dr. Tully was interested in the medicinal properties of fungus and molds at miniature scale. We were hoping for a breakthrough by engineering a new type of fungus. Unfortunately, the experiment did not work quite the way Dr. Tully was hoping. Our fungus ended up spreading rapidly and infected the nearby insect life. If you are headed that direction, I would recommend bringing a gas mask. And watch out for the infected.
I've been wandering around the haze looking for the lab entrance. I thought I knew where it was, but in fact I did not know at all. It's disguised and you have to use a bomb to blow open the entrance. The biometric scanner lets me access the otherwise locked interior.
Trudy was right, as always. Perhaps she should have been the inventor and not me. I should have listened to her when she insisted that I stop the experiments. But if I pack it up now, I will have nothing to show for it. No Trudy and the kids, no spacer, not even my own health. The longer I'm here, the more I'm lumping up, aging, folding, raisening. But why? What am I becoming? A wrinkly virus, flailing helplessly in the dirt with the mushrooms. They are my family now. Though we only branched on the evolutionary tree a little over 1 billion years ago, I can feel us getting closer again already. We're all a bunch of fun guys down here, aren't we? Oh, don't look at me like that. At least no one ever heard of a raisined mushroom, did they? Did they?
In the back of one section of the haze lab, through some explosive 4 fungal growths, is a recipe for the poisoned mushroom sandwich. You can use this to kill the red ant queen and loot her in the hive. There is also a juicy variant which will cause you to befriend the queen, giving you a pet as well as a mutation. A third variant is the infected, which will cause the red ant queen and the hive to spawn as infected variation in New Game Plus. I go after the boss of the haze lab, which is an infected ladybug. I get destroyed pretty quick, not remembering the battle enough to deal with the complications other than axing the explosive spore growth around the arena. Actually end up having to replay this battle more than once because I forget to record. Take out the spores that explode and to give yourself plenty of room to maneuver away from the explosives. Then take out the mites that are shooting at you. A few more will respawn, but they don't spawn forever. After that, it's just a matter of wearing down the ladybug. She will release explosives that do a lot of damage, but you just have to dodge away from them. Stupidly enough, I came to this fight without bandages, so I have to be extra careful in this one that I remember to record.
This has gone poorly. Very, very poorly. The essence of failure, the pinnacle of its craft. Local fauna? Berserk! Mushrooms? Exploding! My condition? Like a baby toe after a long bath. Burgle, are you there?
Is this a test?
Yes, Burgle, it's a test. Now listen carefully. I'm abandoning this facility immediately. Initiate the Blazed Earth Protocol.
But Dr. Tully, simulations indicate a 95.283% probability of catastrophic failure.
I assure you the percentages are much higher than that. Now do it.
Beep beep boop, beep 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 boop.
Why did you make fake beeping sounds?
You said this was a test.
I was being sarcastic. Urgh. Complete the lab lockdown, blast the canister per protocol, and meet me in the Black Ant Lab.
I get the Haze Super Chip, and there is a duper expansion cartridge, which will lower the cost of things that I dupe. One final lab to hit after this, or so I believe.
Mr. Peter Boggs, your survival scout training has proven me wrong. You continue to live. Hand over the super chip and let us hope for the best. One more time. Processing. Processing. The Haze Super Chip. Dr. Tully tried deciphering the ageless properties of mushrooms. Disaster struck before he was able to finish. All of these great memories are coming back. Well, well, well. Some good news. A piece to the Ambiguan cocktail recipe is now restored. But not all of it, unfortunately. And I have some strange memory fragments of a Java-matic. Does that mean anything to you? Coffee. Coffee. Ah, that is it. It is Trudy's coffee maker. Though I cannot say I have any idea how this fits into the equation. However, we are making progress solving this mystery. But we are still not done. There is one more super chip to go. Ah, more of your fragmented memories. Let us stack them together like the ingredients of a burger. They are a common side effect of the shrinking process. The memories, that is, not the burger metaphors, which are simply how I am programmed to understand the world. How can I be of assistance? If they were following the Ominent Practical Science Manual, it is likely they were documenting side effects of the shrinking process, of which there are a few. Short-term memory loss, constipation, dehydration, among other minor ailments. But as for the long-term side effects, nothing to worry about, my friend. You are looking fresher than a non-frozen meat patty. Project Orc? That is certainly not something that Dr. Tully ever discussed with me. Ominent requires its scientists to use codenames for their projects. Eventually, the marketing department gets involved to spice it up. I heard one scientist just used American state names in chronological order. Laughing out loud! What a magnificent scheme! But I digress. Whatever Project Orc is, the name does not sound good.
This chip unlocks the advanced buildings section, which will allow me to build the oven, but not quite yet, as I'll still need Everchar for it. And that only comes from the grill area. I still need sizzle protection to even attempt to gather that stuff. There's also the acorn turret, which might be useful if I decide to run the mixers or any sort of defense mission.
Director Schmechter, these specimens are the breakthrough we've been looking for, just like you predicted. We're close to eliminating the raising problem. Our team was up all night recalibrating the spacer.
I see. Of course, my hypothesis was correct. I hope all of you remember this moment the next time you question my methods. Now then, what progress has been made on covalent space expansion? How did Dr. Wendell Tully, a lifetime failure, best the brightest minds at Ominent?
Yes, sir. We're still working on that formula. I know it's been months, but the Ambiguan process is far more complicated and dangerous than we predicted.
Too bad for you, little ones. Prepare the specimens for termination.
This isn't what I signed up for.
Another vision, and another piece of the puzzle falls into place. This Director Schmechter was the person experimenting on me. But why? The scientists mentioned something called raisoning. Could this be connected to Dr. Tully? Maybe Burgle knows more.
Of course, the director has to sound that way, right?
Director Schmechter, the head of the science division, oversaw Dr. Tully's projects at Ominent. Dr. Tully's disdain for Director Schmechter was even more than his disdain for soggy French fries. They had many disagreements over the years over the direction of the science division. If Schmechter is involved with this, I can assure you he is up to no good. That is what Dr. Tully would say. I have never met the chap and so must reserve judgment. Reasoning is an advanced form of dehydration and an unfortunate side effect of the shrinking process on humans. It appears to become worse with each subsequent use of the spacer. Even without prolonged use, it is a degenerative malady that has no cure at this moment. At the time of his disappearance, Dr. Tully himself was keenly experiencing the side effects of reasoning and was actively working on a solution. That research is currently on hold. Good news for you, however. Ocular analysis indicates a normal number of folds on your face for a human of your age.
Here's yet another mentioning of reasoning. Foreshadowing detected. I'm back at the pawn lab. There's a cave down here that has the mossy key in it. Through a bunch of bell spiders and a disorienting battle that must be done in first person because of the cramped conditions. Mossy key is on the ground, but it blends in with almost everything. It's actually kind of hard for me to find. The mossy chest is in the tunnel leading to the pawn lab entrance. You pass it going that way, but at that point you don't have any means of opening it. There's a mega molar in here, but more importantly, there's another chip. Remember that zipline I had set up in the main base a while back? Yeah, I've finally gotten around to connecting it with the pawn base. I can at least expedite travel back in one direction, as I don't have the zipper yet. That will require me taking down the assistant manager to acquire. I forgot this milk molar in the lunchbox on the picnic table. That's not why I'm here, but I'll take it. As I previously mentioned, there is a zipline connection to the sandbox. I'll need to bring supplies up to the picnic to build a connection on that end, and then the spider silk necessary for the line itself. That's the easiest way into the sandbox. It doesn't require navigating through the black ants. Inevitably I'll go that way anyway, as I'll determine I'm not quite strong enough for the sandbox.
This is moderately terrifying!
There are ant lions on the walls of the sandbox? Is that new? I don't remember this. I can fight them here on the walls that aren't sizzling like the sand is under the sun. There are a few up here too, and I get to collect some new items from them. I'll need both the armor and probably the sword to traverse this place eventually. The sand in the sun burns, but if you get here at night, or even if the sand is in the shade, it won't burn, even without sizzle protection. I run over to the shady side, but I'm not quite trusting the sand won't burn as I see the heat blur. I take the blue shovel down in the hopes that if it is hot, I can climb back up. It is safe though. I find my first spicy candy. I can't really use this yet, but I will need some of these eventually. I then try my hand at the antlion in the pit, but this one has far too much health. I'll need better gear for those. There's a roaming antlion who is just like those on the sandbox walls. I can handle these. They have a new move in the sand, however, as they can dive and then pop out to do extra damage if I'm not blocking. As it turns out, I'll need somewhere in the range of 7 pincers to make the sword, so I'll need a lot more of them.
Ants moving with purpose.
Chasing a fleeing black ant leads me to a field station in the midst of the garbage heap. I'm actually out here looking for the black ant colony that is somewhere around here. I don't remember where, and spend a lot of time wandering around looking for it. I actually end up walking past it a couple of times without realizing it though. The scale here is always pretty awesome. This whole rats map vibe works really well here in the garbage.
I got the science.
In the trash can, which has toppled and spilled out, I'm looking for molars or, well, anything else. The poison here is pretty toxic and will drain the gas mask out almost like a stink bug if I'm not careful. More spicy candy I can't use yet. This was on the scanner the whole time, but for some reason I didn't notice it until now. I literally got that upgrade to help me find these molars better, and here I am not even using it.
The Black Ant Lab is located underground near the sandbox. This remote location was chosen by Dr. Tully to do experiments with the newly discovered raw science particle, which has the occasional tendency to explode. Alas, a horde of black ants took over the lab and made a huge mess of the place. You can find the entrance in the stinky pile of garbage. Alternatively, if you have the right gear, there is a second entrance in the sandbox. If you see black ants, follow them, and they will lead you back to their anthill.
I'm in the Black Ant Lab. This was attacked by black ants, forcing Tully to flee the base after attempting to shut it down. They are still wandering around, and I have to kill quite a few of them in and around the base. It is spread out and disjointed, like most of the labs, requiring some exterior sections in the black ant mazes. Need a bomb here to blow open the rock chunk that is in the way. This lets us into the command core, where we'll get a tape on the black ant incursion into the base that was left behind. We override the computer, allowing us deeper access into the facility.
I'd like to summarize the results of today's mixer trials.
Down this hole, which leads to a hatch, there is more of the base, sleeping quarters, as well as an endless water jug that is present here. There are also resources in the back. Activating clearance B opens up to this big room with a gate. This is where the assistant manager is, but I want to explore the rest of the base first before we open this gate. I'll need the manager's keycard to access a bunch of other locations that are currently locked without it. Down this one tunnel I find the Black Ant Queen. Not going to do anything here right now, but I'll be back later with a meal to secure an alliance with her. I'm a little lost, wandering around, eventually finding my way back to the gate. This time I open it and crack the glass with a bomb to get inside. This sets off the alarms and will summon the assistant manager. Like most bosses, the manager has various phases he'll go through as he takes damage. Initially he's just throwing electrical bubbles at me, which are particularly dangerous if one happens to hit me. I have to wail on him to force him to activate the lasers. These I have to jump over and duck under, and they will hurt if I ever get hit. He also calls in periodic reinforcements that I have to deal with too. My insect axe is beginning to show its age here. The next set, he activates the central lasers as well as the side towers, which cause electrical damage if we get near them. It's more important for me in this particular instance to dodge and stay alive and just deal with my damage output in between dodging everything. I get some crossbow bolt shots in while dodging near the middle. I wish I had a candy staff right about now though. Towards the end, he starts activating the towers constantly, and I just have to get in to get some hits in between while shooting him with the crossbow, all the while dodging everything. I should have brought more healing smoothies, as the bandages weren't fast enough for the damage output it was doing. Somehow, though, I managed to succeed. Now that I've acquired the assistant manager's keycard, I get the first opportunity to open up a room that has the Black Ant Lab super chip. This is the exterior entrance to the Black Lab door, which I've already marked, although there won't be much of a reason for me to return to this lab again, beyond, I guess, eventually befriending the Queen. The haze makes this a particularly...
Today. Eureka! The last one! You have found it! It is finally time that we can complete the embiggening cocktail recipe. Hand over the super chip, and we can get you home. Processing. Of course, toenails. The tiny impractical spatulas at the end of human digits. Well, have fun collecting those. And the final ingredient is... Oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. No, no, no. This cannot be correct. The last ingredient of the cocktail is marked as missing. I am not sure what to tell you. Dr. Wendell Tully purposefully wiped the last ingredient from my memory. My programming prohibits me from remembering the secret ingredient. Wendell never wanted it to fall into the wrong hands. He did not even trust me with it. The entire recipe is only in Wendell's noggin. And as I said, he has not been around for months. Sigh. Processing. 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 Chicken nuggets! Wendell's Scabby! His Scabby has tracking functionality built in. We should now be able to find out where he is with this information. The extra memory you provided with the super chips is helping my processing. Sorry, I did not think to track Dr. Tully earlier. Allow me to connect to his Scabby via my handy state-of-the-art radio modem to see what data I can pull from it. Crackle, 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 I am connected to Dr. Tully's Scabby. I will now start the download. Location, X5432, Y74356, Z19666. Error, Scabby, prototype 0001A, power loss at circuit R23. Analyzing. Error code 324, subminiature axial lead resistor. Ominent model OC93412, failure. Call 555-0126 for technical assistance. Thank you. A minor setback. I know that location. The Scabby is at Dr. Tully's favorite chair by the shed, of course. You should be able to find him there. And take this replacement fuse to repair whatever problem he is having with his Scabby. He should be able to help you out with the Ambiggen cocktail and get you home in no time.
Here they are, all tucked in with the outfits and backpacks they were snatched in. As requested, they're strapped and synced with Scabbies for whatever they might run into down there. You do realize the director will have our heads if he finds out we're removing company property?
Can you sleep at night with what this company's doing? We need to do something.
Is Dr. Tully even alive? The field team reported him missing months ago. You are prolonging the inevitable.
Wendell, wherever he is the only hope for these kids. I'll make the delivery to his yard discreetly. No one is even going to know.
I hope you know what you're doing. The vision is complete. I now know the origin of the briefcase and how Tiny Pete came to be. Things are sort of, maybe just a little bit, making some sense. And knowledge is a beacon in the dark, brave traveler.
I'm in the sandbox. I was just exploring, and then I got into this fight that I realized I could win in spite of really only using the Black Hand blade. With some well-placed blocks and some bandages, I can take down the bigger antlions now. When they die, they fall back into, I guess, their nest. I don't actually know antlion biology. This has upgrade materials, salt, and sometimes candies, as well as one that has a molar. There might also be smaller antlions to deal with, such as this one. There's a bigger interconnected cave with a bunch of salt to break open, too. This antlion reveals the candy stash. I'm unlikely to use all of these, but I'll grab them anyway, just in case. These seem to respawn now, so I can always return to get more candy if I need it, too. This particular outline lets me into the larger aforementioned cave system. There are also two smaller ones inside I have to deal with almost simultaneously, but now that I have access to the abundance of salt present here, seemingly I won't need this much, as once I get the Salt Morning Star, I won't ever build another salt weapon. I'll carry that thing with me to the final battle, and it'll be the only weapon I fully upgrade. Oh, also, now that I have the manager's keycard, I can enter the sandbox lab. There's some candy in here and a tape, but more importantly, we find the sandbox chip. This will unlock some more new stuff in the science shop. I finally have the antlion gear now. This provides, among other things, a resistance to sizzle. This should allow me to penetrate into the overturned grill area and acquire Everchar. The larvae also cause sizzle procs, so I should be able to better tolerate their damage as well, and when I can't block them. First though, these wolf spiders seem to like the heat, and they are guarding a mega molar that I want. I have the black ant sword, but it seems not terribly great at the moment. Eventually, when fighting larvae, I use the red ant club as it seems to dish out more damage. Trying to gather the Everchar, I realize I'm not immune to sizzle at all, just highly resistant. We'll have to approach the char at a specific angle and only do a few hits and run on each to avoid burning up entirely. I probe the heat, trying to find the least dangerous char to acquire. Fortunately, I have plenty of bandages to deal with the damage I'm going to take here. I seem to recall antlion sizzle protection being better in this, but maybe that is incorrect memory, or perhaps I had other sizzle protection gear as well. Oh yeah, there's also buried items here. Usually it seems to be spicy or mint variety. Inside the charcoal bag there's a molar, but also a spicy katana. I don't have the sizzle protection to cope with this battle, and that quickly becomes apparent. By the time I do acquire this sword, I won't actually need it anymore though. This is the Red Ant Queen in her chamber. As mentioned, there are multiple options here, but I'm pursuing friendship instead. This gets me a baby red ant, as well as her pheromone, which I think this respawns and you can come back and gather more later. Yes, the age-old question of can you pet the ant? Indeed, you can pet the ant. You can do that here. Finally, after the whole campaign of Empires of the Undergrowth, I can finally pet the ant. Additionally, befriending the Red Ant Queen nets me the Antbassador mutation, which will make all red ants friendly. So I can come back here without the red ant armor and I'll be okay, as long as I have the mutation on. The sandbox is heated with sunlight, but the antlion armor provides adequate protection for this. There are buried items throughout the sandbox, usually just more candy, but there's a badge present here in the footprint that provides passive regeneration. Unfortunately, though I was looking forward to this, it turns out to not be as useful as I remember. It does provide regeneration, but seems to vastly increase hunger. Mostly I don't find trinkets worth much this run, it seems. Yep, there's a body here. Not the first one we found too. Almanet had some operatives on the ground, but they suffered the fate of all adults, raisoning.
Covalent spacing reduction, questioning the very use of shrinking technology. What a ridiculous...
There's a cookie out here in the sandbox. I don't take advantage of this because at this time I still don't realize that they can respawn. I also don't realize that they can drop additional items for research. There's a treasure chest here, but there's not much of value in it, but it's something. The wolf spider in the sandbox almost kills me. I guess I really do need better weapons. There is a treasure buried here, reminiscent of Indiana Jones. Find it at a specific time of day when the light shines through the handle of the toy shovel to reveal its location. Fortunately, I just remember where it is, but kind of vaguely. And you don't need to do the whole process to make it appear, it's just buried here. This is the key to the chest in the moat around the sandcastle. This chest in turn has a very important recipe for me, with a weapon that I will eventually fully upgrade. Although the Assault Morningstar isn't the best weapon in the game, it is one of my favorites, especially once I have the Mother Demon armor to buff it further. The assistant manager keycard in the main oak base has some upgrade materials, but that's not the important part. The zipper is in here. This will allow me to move up and down a zipline and not just downhill. This will be very important when I'm moving into the upper yard towards the end of the game. I'm going to be going uphill and it will make traversal to the upper yard a lot easier and quicker. Tully's Scabby is up here on this table near his chair on the porch. I have to do a bit of parkour to even attempt to get up there, as well as avoiding ants and mites on a chair that will attempt to intervene. There's a veritable army here, and I attempt to contend with them before realizing that I probably just need to run. I might have some upgraded weapons, but I'm not really ready for this big of a fight. I float across the table, coming to the realization that I have arrived a tad early, as I don't have a tier 3 hammer. This is required for just about everything up here, including the scabby. I forgot I needed more upgrades than this. I got ahead of myself. This gumwad on the picnic table requires some creative parkour on the leaves of a weed. Let's look at this like a puzzle. The unfortunate part though is that the pieces drop to the ground, and I'm not sure I got all of them, because they tend to bounce and roll away. The other wad of gum underneath requires jumping down onto the lunchbox and walking on the plastic spoon. If you time the swing and jump appropriately, you can hit it. Once more, however, everything drops below and you have to go down and find it. I'll set up several of these zip lines into the upper yard before we're done. They just save so much travel time to and fro, as I'll need to complete various objectives up here and return to my base by the juice for repairs and or crafting. I try to refresh the spinning wheel with spider silk every time I'm back at the base, as those lines require a lot of webbing string. I think I maybe 30 per, probably more. I've got the Salt Morningstar finally. It was my favorite weapon last time I played, and it remains so now. I can take on a full roly-poly now. With some better blocks, I wouldn't have even taken damage that I did. This weapon will get some competition later on from the mid-base, perhaps, but I'll be using this all the way to the end. It'll need to be upgraded a few times, though, to reach its full potential. This is the Ladybird Larva Cave. The front guard is a ladybird, but mostly it is just larva. I'm mostly here looking for something specific. The larvae have a very small chance to drop a trinket that provides sizzle protection, but I think I got it as a drop from this cave before. Maybe it was just RNG luck though. I'm here to see if I can get that drop to repeat this playthrough. The Salt Mace is of course doing some heavy lifting here. I got the spike already. 2 times is still a coincidence. You need 3 points of data for a pattern, but I wonder if it just drops here. A bee suddenly flies through the wall into the tunnel. Bees have this uncanny knack of getting into places they aren't supposed to be. I've seen them in the boss layers before too. They just seem to click through walls like they're playing Doom. Bees just seem to have innate no-clip. I don't know what's going on with them. I'm not complaining though. I'm in the gorge looking for pupa leather because I don't remember there are far better locations to search for it in. Under the deck of the shed is a far better place that I will find later, but for now this is all I remember. Spiders are no match for my Salt Morningstar. There's also a Mega Molar back here too. Although I can handle the ox beetles now, they can still dish out the damage with the rocks they toss at you. I have to fight 2 of these to get out of the canyon, which at night I've gotten turned around in and spend far too long trying to find my way back out again. Random chest buried in the canyon that has some interesting items in it. Usually these are just food, but this one has a few valuables. This open PVC pipe was visible from the canyon, but it seems to only be accessible by dropping down into it. There's some raw science here, but more importantly, there's a molar within it. Having some issues over here. Gotta jump at it from the correct direction to actually get on the bike. I'm back for Tully's Scabby, and this time I have a tier 3 hammer. I also have a mint mace, which should be more than enough to deal with most things that the Salt Morningstar can't handle. I do manage to fight a huge battle with the black ants who are trying to get to the candy cup. I think I wipe out most of them in this section of the deck, which was wild. There are more mints in this cup. It's not like I need them at this point, but might as well since I'm here. They also apparently respawn now, as I've been finding mints back near the case near the start of the map. I thought that place was static, but I guess not. I once more glide across with the dandelion and grab the sour candy. Then it's time to get the toenails. Ugh, gross. Finally, time to open up the battery of the Scabby to power it up again in order to find the location of Tully, wherever he managed to disappear to.
Scabby online. Transferring biometric data. Wendell Tully. Biometric data transfer complete. Audio file downloaded. Dr. Wendell Tully. Title, Goodbye.
Hello, my scabby-wearing friend. I do not know who you are or how you came by this message, but please tell them I tried. Tell Trudy, Thor, my little Sarah. Tell the world. The sun is setting on our yard, and it brings back so many memories. Sitting in this chair, my favorite chair, my thinking chair, I fear this may be the last time I lay eyes on such a beautiful sight. I'm nearly out of time. My body shrivels more with each passing day. Even my Scabby can barely fit on my bony wrist. The spacer, my greatest achievement, a disaster. The final chapter in the book of my many failures. Perhaps in solitude, free from my family, from burgle, from ominent, perhaps I can finally find a cure to this damnable reasoning. So, this will be my last adventure into the miniature world. I leave the warmth of the sun and embrace the unknown. I'll either find the answer or shrivel in the darkness below. To my lab underneath the shed. This is Dr. Wendell Tully, signing off. Goodbye.
Tully is in the lab shed, or at least that's where he went after leaving his final message, the entrance of which is just over here, and I found it earlier but didn't have the access necessary to get in, as I was yet again ahead of the storyline a little bit. I scan biometrics to enter the shed lab. There's resources here, like most bases, and I take some of them. There's also the blueprint to the fridge, which I will eventually build, but it's not really much use to where I am at the game right now. Seemingly, you can just leave roasted food on the roasting spit, and as long as it isn't accessible to wandering ants, which will eat it, it will remain there indefinitely. The decay process only happens once you remove it. This makes the fridge kind of irrelevant, in my opinion, unless I'm missing something.
Playing tricks on my mind. I fear every shadow, hear whispers in the silence. But most of all, I miss my family. Ah, Trudy and her crooked grin, the way she rolled her eyes at my dumb jokes. Sarah, my little angel, how she would jump into my arms every time I walked through the door after work. And Thor and his obsession of the month. What was the last one? Castle Moldork? No, it was Mance. Dad, what do you mean I don't need Mant minis? Have you seen them? Do you even know what a Mant is? It's so rad, Dad. A barbarian, an insectoid warrior with the mind of a human. Wait a minute. An insect with a human mind. I wonder if... No, stop it, Wendell. The darkness is giving you strange notions again. You need to focus on the task at hand. Reasoning. Raw science. The key is here. It must be.
The underground of the shed is gigantic. I'll be coming back here several times to gather resources in preparation for venturing into the lab and facing the aforementioned Mantis boss. Well, the Mantis boss of this lab anyway. I guess technically it's called the Mant and not a Mantis. 3 ox beetles at once? Sure, why not? What could go wrong? First though, I'm going to use the terrain to my advantage to ensure that only 1 or 2 can hit me at once. I don't have smoothies yet for healing, but I sure do need them for this particular fight, and many beyond this. There's termites that join the battle too, and even a random gnat shows up to be annoying. I'm literally just 10 feet into the shed and having one of the largest non-boss battles thus far. I'm back in the underground shed. We're in one of the PVC pipes. I know there's something at the end of it, but I don't remember what. After fighting a legion of dust mites, I discovered a mega molar. These are less valuable in my mind than the combat stats, but can't really complain too much. I seem to find the mega ones a lot though. Taking these rocks down further, I do find a normal molar though. Hooray! The exterior view gives us the route we'll take to gain access to the underground shed. The spider hole over there has a widow that I don't actually have the gear to fight yet, or at least I'm not confident my gear can handle it. The poison of the widows is ludicrously strong, requiring smoothies or at least something more than the bandages if you can't do perfect blocks all the time. By the way, I can't. I'm not quite going to get to the lab in this trip. I take the route to the left, which is filled with orb weaver spiders. At one point I'm fighting 3 at once. Salt Morningstar makes short work of them, however. There are a lot of upgrade rocks here, and I can collect spider parts. Eventually I'll use those parts to make repair glue, which is how I'll repair my gear once enough upgrades have been made. Normally you want to use upgrades to repair, as it repairs the item for free, technically. There's a fresh mint at the end of this that drops mint trinket. I think this is a drop from any mint, just relatively low chance. This provides some fresh damage to all attacks, just a little buff and not much else. I'll use it for a bit, but not for long. Up the stick in this little, I don't know, pit is the insulation patch. This has a huge amount of lint present, but there are also termites and ox beetles. Another ox beetle battle where I desperately need to figure out smoothies as I eat rock after rock thrown at me. I hope I'll eventually figure this out. Bandages, they're great, but they're not relevant at this stage as much. For some reason, I'm attacked by larvae. I'm not sure why. I killed way more spiders and ox beetles, but here they are eating at my walls. There are a few ladybird larvae too, just for good measure. The base attacks are always fun as long as your chests are up, above, or behind fortified walls. If not, well, you'll be cleaning up your room for a while after. I've set up yet another zipline. This one is more along the lines of the underground shed. I could go higher, placing it on the shed porch itself, but this seems adequate enough. It's just a little jaunt from the retaining wall to the shed base, after all. I'm moving along the upper portion of the shed along a cable. I remember there being some stuff up here, and we find lint right away. There's also this little jump nonsense where you jump from a nail to another cable, but I get to bypass this with a dandelion, just gliding over the whole problem. Across the PVC pipe, we have to jump to the water pipe. We're now above the little lake below, where the lab entrance and the widow reside. This is very cool environmental storytelling because the pipe's leaking and the water drops down into the lake below. Down further along this pipe, you have to jump to a different pipe to avoid exposed insulation, creating more of a parkour problem. Beyond this leads us to hoses that take us up to the insulation where there exists an infinite supply, seemingly, of lint, as well as a megamolar. I'll definitely have more lint now than I'll ever use, probably more than I'll ever even turn into string. There's a random wolf spider in the dark. They aren't the enemies they used to be, even though I was cautious around them for the longest time. For some reason, he's just out here hanging with the termites. If you run up this plank of wood and then jump across to the insulation before making another jump, there's some raw science as well as yet more lint. Lint for days, ladies and gentlemen. Lint for days. This exposed PVC pipe leads to an interior area with a cracked stone as visible through a crevice that you can't crawl through. Going down into the water, you're shown where this leads to. Now, bomb arrows would just bust this open from the water, but my explosives don't work underwater. If you're not completely inept about throwing, like I clearly am right here, you just have to lob a single bomb over the rock and blow it up. It should be simple. It's not for me, though. Inside this area, I don't know if this qualifies as a secret or not, as it's clearly visible outside, but there are upgrade materials as well as a molar. If you have the molar scanner, you will have some inkling it is here too. Inside the fire ant colony, there's a root wall to hack through with the tier 3 axe. This has upgrade materials. These are all over the place, especially in ant colonies, but you'll want as much as you can if you want to try different weapons out. I'll primarily be using the mid-mace and Salt Morningstar, eventually supplementing these with the candy staves later, but I try a few things along the way, just to see if anything fits my fancy. I eventually anger the colony, ending up in a massive battle with the workers that I'm forced to flee. There's just too many of them, and fire ants can do some real damage too. This fight leads to a destroyable rock, and I finish off the last of my pursuers. Inside is another mega molar. This tunnel leads to an additional exterior with a molar and a bunch of upgrade stones. I mark it and leave, but probably should have grabbed the molar since I was there. My inventory is mostly full for the upgrade stones though. This area is behind a large bag under the shed's deck. There's a toy gun back here as well as canisters with gunpowder to collect. I catch sight of a twinkling beetle. Not the first one I've seen, but I am able to catch this one right before a green shield beetle jumps in to almost kill me. I have to flee a short distance so I can get the gas mask on as well as heal before returning to wail on this thing. There are only a few of these shield bugs in the yard, though I learn later their parts drop from Black Widow eggs. Because I don't end up using their parts much, I don't come back to farm any of these. Oh look, gunpowder in a circle. Parkouring across the roots to the widow nest is difficult for my tiny brain to comprehend. Eventually I get there though.
I certainly hope you've received long jump training.
I'm still not confident that I can fight the widow yet. I see if I can just run through the other side of the nest. For some reason this actually does work. I'll be back later. I need a widow dagger for the upper yard pond. For now though, I'm content. I break the upgrade rock and all the parts spill into the canister above, becoming completely inaccessible to me. One of the very few rare bugs I have encountered.
Defeat. Failure. Countless infusions. Countless migraines. I'm so shriveled now I can barely walk. And the true origin of raw science? Oh, an enigma. A mystery box with no lid. I don't think I have much longer. It is hard to think straight. I am so tired. I have only one option that remains. One last toss of the proverbial dice. Commence Project Mant.
The underground shed lab has some infected creatures in it, likely part of the Mant project. The tape here indicates Tully wanted to transfer his consciousness into a new body to escape the razoning, but as usual, like most of Tully's things, it doesn't work quite right and then gets loose. Down the other tunnel, there is a monstrous roaring, and then we find the Mant, trapped in one section of the lab, meandering back and forth. This was a brutal fight the last time I was here, but this time I have some pretty decent equipment. I also have some healing, although I'm still absent smoothies because I haven't figured that one out yet. I'm not very smart. The Mant has a huge health bar, but the mid-mace takes some big chunks out of it. He summons reinforcements here and there, as well as having a few special attacks, like most bosses. He increases as he gets damaged. His explosive attack is particularly nasty, but fortunately maces can stun him, at least for a moment. Any respite from his attacks is worthwhile, though. Upon his death, I get the Mysterious Stranger, a shout out to Fallout. It's fun, but not particularly useful. In the room where the Mant was is a biometric scanner, which opens up further into the lab.
You may have defeated my Mant, but you and your eminent paymasters will never get their hands on the embiggening cocktail. I'll take that secret to my grave. To my grave! The watched becomes the watcher. knowing that you have followed my path right to me, right where I want you. Though you are a bit small for an agent of Armament. What? No! How can this... Where is the override? Well, here I am, Wendell Tully in all his glory. Speaking of forgiveness, please excuse my shriveled appearance. This blasted racing has taken its toll on my body. My support pod is the only thing keeping me from drying out completely. As you can see, my body has withered away. I created the mant to be used as a temporary body so that I could continue my work. But I never imagined the insect's instincts would remain, let alone gain sentience. I lost control almost immediately. As always, my greatest successes are followed by the greatest failures. Wendell Tully, husband, father, scientist. He succeeded only in the end. When the reasoning became too much, I realized I had to find a cure before it was too late. I hid here, away from the eyes. So many prying eyes. Ominent has always wanted to steal my work. They would never admit its worth and greatness, and yet they would always take it. Especially Schmechter. I have made many mistakes in my life. Countless, really. But one that I will never make again is to allow my discoveries to fall into the hands of that corporation. If I must die for it, so be it. Like the grape set out in the sun, the body shrivels, withers, desiccates, becoming a husk of what was once a living being. In essence, what you see here before you, in all its unholy glory, the withered man. Well, if you will allow me to check your scabby. You've been in the yard for months. You should be well reasoned by now. Nothing in my research has shown that there is any immunity to it, and yet here you are. Perhaps it is that your youthful bodies are more resistant than others. Likely, this is why Ominent was experimenting on children to begin with, which means... Did Schmechter find a cure? No, that would be beyond anyone's ability, I think. Damn! As much as I loathe the man, I must admit that Schmechter is brilliant in his own way, though his methods can be quite distasteful. We cannot rule out the possibility that he has done it. Could that mean there is hope for me? Home. Oh, yes, of course. Home. Your parents must be worried. So very worried. The process is not difficult. You will simply need to brew an embiggening cocktail at the Java-matic machine.
Now that we have Tully, we can technically start the final battle. First, however, I want to deal with Schmechter's agents in the yard, as we're being attacked by mind-controlled critters now. I think they're called orcs. Additionally, I want to tackle the 3 main bosses out in the yard. I think I can set up everything in the pot, only to find out I need a whole lot of resources to deposit. Actually, I seem to have everything right here and dump it into the coffee maker. Time to push the button and start the sequence.
Look at the state of this! Trudy's Java-matic! Oh, the warranty will be voided for sure! Subterfuge, reckless destruction of apparatus, the complete lack of respect for another person's science? This all reeks of Schmechter. I must warn you, the fusion process for the embiggening cocktail is quite loud. It will continue to draw attention from the director's little army. And it will take some time to brew, I'm afraid. We'll need to defend those mixer modules for as long as it takes. If the orcs destroy them, they'll take down the entire system. A prudent suggestion. Strong enough defensive structures around... I have a storage facility not far from here that should be of use in this endeavor. I'll mark its location on your scappy. This might take a bit longer to get you home, but safety first, as I always say. If we can find where they are coming from, we just might uncover a way to stop them. But where? They are a creation of Armament. I suspect they have some sort of facility hidden in the yard. If you can locate it, I think that I can get us inside. I wonder if... No, that can't be it. Perhaps he hid it in there. No, that's far too obvious. Shh, I'm thinking. Maybe, just maybe he hid it behind the... Ha! Absurd. Who in their right mind would build a lab there? Well, it's not that I think that I have no idea where it is. Sorry.
This is a defense mission. We'll need to build walls, explosives, and in order to defend against waves of enemies. I'm not going to do this immediately, but in due time we're going to have to come back here to complete the game. Look what I almost completely forgot about. That's the best buried treasure I've ever found out here in the yard. Fortunately, I kind of remember where to go, and I have the tier 3 acts necessary to enter this semi-secret underground area. There's an Ominent agent here, or at least what's left of him. The main prize is all of these molars, though. I'm sure there are some other caches like this that I either don't remember or never found. I'd be curious where they are, though. Climbing up onto the solar light with some creative parkour, I encountered my first moth. Don't think I'll fight another one of these for the rest of the game, and I certainly don't build a gear with their remains. Nice view of the yard from here, especially the stump. There's a lab I need to go to soon. But first I have to go to the pond to unlock the door. This is a spicy Cortana battle. I have some serious sizzle protection now that will allow me to almost walk into fire. I've got the fresh defense from eating mints, which is a mutation that provides sizzle protection, as well as the antlion armor and the larva trinket. I think, at least at this point, that I want this for the broodmother, but ultimately I'll use the candy staff and my maces instead. Even though the sword is literally in the stone, we don't actually get it here and instead have to acquire the blueprint to build it. I didn't actually realize what was in this hole after I blew open a rock. I saw the molar above, so I figured there was something bad down here. But a widow wasn't what I was expecting. I have smoothies and bandage this time. I also have the tick blade, which has lifesteal. Additionally, I put sour on this to assist. I won't be using this blade much beyond widow battles though. Perfect blocking can really save you in this battle, and, well, most other battles, but I can't accomplish that regularly, and this poison, it hurt. The damage that she does also hurts. With some incredible effort and healing, I do manage to take her and her spiderlings down. There's some upgrade materials here, but the true prize is the molar. What a fight to get a molar, though. Earlier we got a bunch just for going underground into a bottle. I'm in the termite layer, which I haven't really gone to much at all. There's an auxiliary chip here, and that has the recipe for the candy staves. I want these for the upcoming boss battles. Also, who doesn't want to be a wizard? There are plenty of upgrade materials and splinters down here as well. I initially aggro the termite king and pull back, unsure how tough he is going to be. Eventually, I realize I've got more than enough good gear to eliminate the entire lineage. The auxiliary chip is in his room anyway, so he has to die to get it. Bunch of upgrade materials down here too. I probably don't need more, but I will be upgrading the staves quite a bit before the end. Besides, I can't help myself just grabbing more loot if I see it. This is the area on top of the wood pile with a blue tarp. I'm pretty sure I've seen this blue tarp on wood piles IRL at some point too. Minus the tiny teenagers and termites hive though. Underneath it is one area with a molar. You're a wizard, Harry. Love this fire staff in particular. The others are alright, but this one is my favorite. I'm back at the Black Ant colony so I can feed the queen a sandwich and become her BFF. Burning up her minions in the process is just a part of the requirement to gain audience with royalty. Somehow I find the sandbox entrance to the colony by accident. Don't have the gear to deal with the sizzle now though, and there's nothing really here that I need. I have no memory of this place. In spite of being here only a few days prior, I can't seem to find that queen again. After what feels like wiping out 90% of the colony and literally draining the durability of the candy staff to almost the breaking point, I finally find her again. I find her and the sandwich is all that's required to be best friends forever. I also get the Black Ant baby pet and her pheromone. This area in the back only opens up if you poison her. That might be something I'd do in New Game Plus, but I'm not going to be covering any of that here. There is so much content behind New Game Plus, however, if you want to check it out. Before I can access the stump lab, I have to go into this section of the underwater base and open the entrance in a flooded section. Yes, I went to the stump lab and was confused as to why it was closed and eventually tracked down what I needed to do. Might as well get some muscle sprouts while I'm here for the smoothies. I finally figured those out. Going to need a lot of smoothies for the bosses, I suspect. The stump lab has seen better days. This is a parkour map requiring some relatively precise jumps to progress through it. There's a chip here I need to acquire blueprints for the tier 3 upgrade materials. There's also the mantis boss summoning recipe, which will become useful later. The progress here is harder not knowing where to go, but fortunately I have a mild memory of how to progress through the remains of this base. It is too easy to get turned around in here for me. We have to go down into this room and then up to the control panel to mash keys in order to open the security door. Getting down here isn't bad, but it takes some effort to get back out. Back in the main section, we literally just fall through the door onto the aux chip. That wasn't really hard to find. There's even some tier 3 upgrade materials present that the game outright gives you. Of course, I've been collecting this stuff for a while now. Probably I should have come here earlier in order to use it, but yeah, it is what it is. I have to climb up to get out of the lab in what feels like an incredible distance. This is supposedly an optional base, but I wouldn't want to skip tier 3 upgrade material recipes for or the mantis summoning item. I guess you could skip them if you were just strictly going for the story ending though, and didn't care about the bosses. So this is a complicated and long route to take, but I need something up there. Maybe I don't need it, but I want it. I have to climb up on a lawnmower and then run along its handles to reach the side of the aluminum ladder that's laying down against the wall. If you run down the length of the ladder to its end, you can jump onto some vines that are growing up the wall. This is a precarious route, and you should definitely save because I didn't and fell and had to do all this over again. Up here on the wall, after jumping on vines and then leaves and then some of the wall and then vines again, you'll find this wad of gum as well as some mints. Under the gum, however, is the sticky key, which I need to unlock a chest. What it's doing all the way up here, I don't think I ever found out, but it's here under this gun nonetheless. While I don't linger on this view nearly as much as I should have, considering all the effort it took to get up here, you can see the lawnmower in the back for a moment. This overturned tire is filled up with water, and while you can get inside just by jumping in, it requires some parkour on the plants to get back out. The chest in here is what requires a sticky key. It only has 2 molars, so it's probably something you can skip without too much harm though. This is doubly true if you don't want to deal with the plant parkour required to escape. I don't end up fully upgrading everything, but I do get fairly close. Welcome to the Brood Mother's Haven. We actually passed this several times when we were on our way to the hedge lab when we passed the frisbee. It's actually a point where I can reasonably fight her, and I have several summoning items that I'll use to acquire enough parts to build both her armor as well as what I need to summon the other bosses, since you need her parts to summon them too. Initially, she is weak to Sizzle, making the staff drop her health rapidly. She also has a summons attack, but since the staff is AoE, that really doesn't matter too much. I keep circling backwards, trying to stay away from her as much as I can. As usual, the aggression of the bosses ramps up as she takes more damage. Overall though, I don't really have much of a problem here. I guess I really have overprepared. I'll fight her a few more times, but I'll use the mid-mace a bit more for those fights instead of exclusively the candy staff. You need quite a bit of her chunks for the armor. I'll actually make more of her summoning materials and come back later.
My suspicions were correct. This lab is not one of mine. I knew it! Schmechter has been spying on me this whole time. Classic Schmechter. Now, what do we have here? Standard armament security door? Ha! Child's play. No offense, of course. It's now or never. Are you ready? Okay, let's get Burgle on the line.
Hello, this is Burgle Science Lab. Burgle speaking. Can I interest you in some grilled?
Burgle, I need you to hack into an ominous security door for me. I'm sending you the coordinates now.
Oh, Dr. Tully, at once. Entering Falcon protocol mode. Decoding manual password reset at Ominent Terminal K321B. Stand by. Hacking. 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 Still hacking.
Perhaps if you had replaced that grilling function with something more useful, we would not be waiting all day for...
I'm in! Username, Schmechter D. Password, Schmechter the Director. Transmitting.
Why, thank you, Burgle. You're efficient.
I actually forgot Smector's lab was down here. I was just exploring Castle Muldrock with some inkling that something was here, but wasn't recording until I hit the Ominent lab portion. Schmechter is down here, or at least an operative of his. This is an optional fight, but it is one I wanted to do before we commence the final battle for the embiggening cell. Inside the lab, we get a glimpse of the bugs with the orc devices on their heads, turning them into mind-controlled operatives of Ominent.
Bravo, bravo. So the lab rats have finally reached the end of the maze. And not alone, I see.
Pulling the strings from behind the scenes as always, Dalton. You gutless coward! Why don't you meet us here? Face to face?
Poor Wendell. Lost your job, Trudy's left you, took the kids too, left you with nothing but your work.
At least I'm not experimenting on children!
Oh, but isn't that just what you've been doing? Hiding in your little garden and using these children to fight your battles for you because you never fight them yourself? You were pathetic before I fired you. Look at you now. You're nothing. Just a shriveled, sad raisin. Oh, yes, of course. Like in the motion pictures. Is that the role you think I play? That of the villain? Please. Too simple. Too obvious. I never planned for this when I was brought in to clean up Wendell's mess. But I did not shy away from the task. Not when I realized the magnitude of the opportunity, if properly handled. The lucrative applications were countless. Despite what my former colleague might have told you, it was certainly not by choice. I hypothesized that adolescents would be resistant to the effects of raisoning. The young have incredibly strong immune systems, after all. Couple that with the intense hormonal growth, and I was pleased to learn that you are not only resistant, but immune to said syndrome. Once that connection was made, what choice did I have?
So you did find a cure because of the children you abducted.
Of course. I'm not a failure like you, Wendell. Yes, I abducted those children. I admit it freely. Not that anyone will ever know. Obviously, I can't allow any of you to leave this facility alive. Shrinking inanimate objects will change the world, no doubt. The shipping industry alone will never be the same. That was the extent of Wendell's imagination. But people... the governments of the world will bankrupt each other for a mere taste of this technology. Oh, come now. Although I won't mind the fame, the power, the respect for Director Dalton Schmechter. But in the end, my little rat, yes, it is always about the money. No one will sponsor your spirit of invention without raw profit. A simple, elementary concept. Something you never understood, Tully, with your idealism and your raw science.
You're a disgrace to the profession, Dalton.
And you are a deluded fool. This is why I never had kids.
We don't actually find Schmechter here, of course, only one of his machine operatives. Once more, the candy staff comes in handy as he fills the room with electrical bubbles, but I can just shoot him from afar with the staff. Then he fires beam weapons, but these have a limited area and you can hide in the corners to avoid them. You just have to deflect the lightning balls. Not a hard fight, at least not where I'm at in the game, having been gearing up for the Mantis fight. This is the interior of the shed. This is where the wasp burst out of when I pissed them off enough. There's a few items of interest here to collect. Mostly I'm just setting up everything here so I can come back and deal with the wasp queen. The resources in here are mostly superfluous as I'm a couple boss fights away from the beginning cell, but I can't help but gather them anyway. You hit these legs to knock them loose with a tier 3 hammer to create an additional route through the shed. There are a few fights with wasps here, getting me used to dealing with flying enemies, even though I had to kill quite a few wasps to anger them in the first place in order to force them out of the shed. The big wasp nest here is where you'll come to spawn the wasp queen, one of the 3 big bosses. This is the Mantis fight. The Salt Morningstar is the perfect item for this fight, and I upgraded it fully just for this specific occasion. As always, blocks are the key to this fight. The Mantis can put out a lot of damage. Since I don't have a leaf cutter army to deal with him, I'll just have to do it myself, I guess. I also have full Mother Demon armor, and the poison here does a lot of DPS, in spite of the Mantis not really being weak to it. The longer this fight goes on, the worse it becomes, but we're overgeared, and it doesn't last very long. Things don't go well for the Mantis. One more boss to go. The Wasp Queen battle. She's in the air a lot, so the candy staves are very nice for this fight outside. Of a few times when she is low enough to use the mint mace. Once more, poison from the Mother Demon armor helps wear her down, as I'm pretty much able to apply the venom and poison constantly. She takes a lot of damage. She has a lot of health, and it does take me a while to bring her down, but she doesn't do a whole lot to me. I'm able to block effectively here for some reason, and I have a near endless supply of smoothies too, even if she does attempt to hit me. We're pretty much at the end now. There's only the battle for the embiggening cell with the 3 bosses eliminated. I pretty much have my choice of gear. I spent a whole lot of time building mushroom defenses as well as some burr traps. Unfortunately, the burr traps didn't really work. Probably my fault for not identifying their explosive conditions. The walls don't hold back the enemy all that much either, but fortunately I do quite a bit of damage regardless. I maybe should have built them higher, but building mushroom materials took a while. First mistake I made right out of the gate is not having a repair tool on me. Pretty stupid preparation mistake, but I'm determined to make it work anyway. Although I've eliminated Nectar from the yard, it doesn't stop his minions from rolling in and to stop the embiggening cell. This is a long drawn out fight where the enemy comes in waves with orc variants of nearly every bug you would normally encounter in the yard. There's oddly a lot of downtime too, but that's probably because I killed them too quickly. For the most part, they really only mildly damage Mixer A. I'm overgeared after farming the bosses. They make this final push with a Black Ox Beetle, but they are no match for Super Pete.
Well, here we are, back where it all began. I never thought I'd say this, but it's time to go home. For all of us to go home. For the first time in a long while, I have a good feeling about the future, and it's all because of you. We'd better get you back to your families. I suspect they're worried sick about you. Perhaps they are worried about me still, but I know that I put them through a lot. I only hope that they know how much I love them. But there's no sense in being so glum. I haven't quite yet reached the end of my road, though there may not be much track left to lay. Now look, all this sad talk has me mixing my metaphors. Don't worry about me. Whatever will be, will be. I understand. Thank you for everything that you've done. I'll never forget it.
Karl here. After our call, would you be interested in taking a short survey on the quality of my service today?
For the last time, Burgle, no! I do not want any more of these confounded confounded follow-up surveys. The answer is adequate. Always adequate.
Adequate?
Now, listen to me. This is your manager speaking. We're about to fire up the spacer. I need you to keep an eye on the raw science convergence coupling. The last thing we need is an overload spike.
Wait, you are leaving? Have you been dissatisfied with my service?
Don't worry. I'll come back for you when things calm down in the real world. But it may be a while.
Affirmative, Dr. Tully. I will stay behind. Again.
But I need you to keep an eye on things down here while I'm gone. Regional Science Manager Burgle?
Regional Science Manager? But, Dr. Tully, does that mean we will be franchising?
Burgle, this is a big responsibility. In recognition of your work ethic and commitment to outstanding customer service.
Really? My circuits are fizzling, Dr. Tully. Have no fear. Regional Manager Burgle will not let you down. That's Regional Manager Burgle. Thank you very much.
Indeed it is. This is it, my young friend. When you get home, do me a favor. Don't grow up too fast, will you? Okay then. Would you do the honors of flipping the switch? For science!
And with a flash, that was the end of the tiny adventure of a lifetime. At least that's what the local papers called it. It's hard to believe how much has happened since then. There were reporters, investigators, even the FBI got involved. They tried to keep a lid on all of it, but the whole story came out. About the kidnappings, about the dead teenagers, about Omni. Turns out, everyone did learn the name of Director Dalton Schmechter, just like he always would. But when the dust settled, the weirdest thing happened. People learned the truth about the shrinking technology and about me. It felt good to get the recognition that I had always wanted for all my life. Pete, Willow, Max, and Hoops tried to go back to being normal teenagers. Burgle has joined the Kids Do Science and Robotics Club. He's the mascot, they didn't tell him. I'm expecting big things from all of them. Life's getting back to normal around here. It's funny that the world can still seem so small. And no, I haven't come up with my next big invention, and I don't mind one bit either. Because when it comes down to it, all that really matters is that we make the most of the time that we have together.
That was amazing!
If you ever wanted to play a game version of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, well, we found it. Although this is quite a long game, and I probably put close to 50 to 60 hours into it thus far, I doubt I found anywhere near all the little interesting side areas the game has. I certainly didn't do any of the mixer stations. Those are worth doing, though. I have just spent too much time already putting all of this together to get to them. Despite the relatively fun art style, the storyline went into some uncomfortable territory, but we did get a good ending nonetheless. Don't expect a game like this to have a great storyline, but I do appreciate and love when that happens. This was certainly a motivator to keep pushing towards the end, especially when the first time I played. As mentioned, this game is co-op and it is a blast even if you can't get 4 friends together regularly to play it. There's also some additional content in New Game Plus, and you have the ability, with poison sandwiches for instance, to influence the next New Game Plus to change how at least one part of the game plays out. This adds some additional layers if somehow you need more of it. I loved every moment of this game, the storyline, the gameplay, the upgrades, everything. And the second one is already out now, at least in early access, so there's even more to try out. I hope the storyline of the second one is at least as good as this one, and I do expect the gameplay will be comparable as well. That's a game for another. As always, however, if you made it this far, somehow, thank you for watching. Also, please enjoy the rest of your week.